we economic hitmen have managed to create the world's first truly global empire, and it's basically a secret empire. We do it many ways, but principally, we identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. The money never actually goes to the country. It goes to our own corporations to build big infrastructure projects in that country that help a few very wealthy people, but don't benefit the majority of the people who are too poor to buy electricity or have cars to drive on the highways, and yet they're left holding a huge debt that they can't repay. So we go back at some point and say, you know, you can't pay your debts. Give us a pound of flesh. Sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Vote with us on the next critical UN vote. Allow us to build a military base in your backyard. Something along these lines. And when we fail, the jackals go in and either overthrow or assassinate these leaders. And if the jackals fail, as they did in Iraq, then we send in the military. I don't think the failure is capitalism. I think it's a specific kind of capitalism that we've developed. We've created what I consider a mutant, viral form of capitalism. And this mutant form of capitalism, which I think is really a predatory form of capitalism, has created an extremely unstable, unsustainable, unjust, and very, very dangerous world. I've met a lot of terrorists. I've interviewed them for books. I've never met one who wanted to be a terrorist. They're desperate people. If we want to get rid of terrorism, we must get rid of the root cause of that cancer that is destroying our whole system. Because I think it's really important that we understand today we cannot have homeland security unless we understand that the whole planet is our homeland.
Think for a moment about the concept of the flamethrower. Okay? The flamethrower, because we have them. Well, we don't have them, the Army has them. That's right. We don't have any flamethrowers. I'd say we're fucked if we have to go up against the Army, wouldn't you? But we have flamethrowers, and what this indicates to me, it means that at some point, some person said to himself, gee, I sure would like to set those people on fire over there. But I'm way too far away to get the job done. If only I had something that would throw flame on them. Well, it might have ended right there, but he mentioned it to his friend. His friend who was good with tools. And about a month later, he was back. Hey, quite a concept. And of course, the Army heard about it, and they came around. We'd like to buy about 500,000 of them, please. We have some people we'd like to throw flame on. Give us 500,000 and paint them dark brown. We don't want anyone to see them. Ta-da! I was on a talk show recently, and the host asked me, said, what do you think about the dope problem? And I said, definitely, I feel we have too many dopes. Yes. No question about it. That's why we have a drug problem, I really feel, you know, because, like, everybody has access to drugs, and we're all kind of just dopey, you know, we're just human beings, little protoplasm walking around, shaking hands, how are you, Phil, can you piece of lettuce, you know. No real big thing, we're just kind of dopey folks, and we have all these drugs available to us, you know, that's why there's a drug problem, man. There's all those drug stores, right? Every 3 or 4 blocks, there's a big sign, drugs, open all night, drugs, we deliver drugs. Cut rate, drugs. It's the biggest thing on their sign. Cosmetics, sundries, drugs. It's no accident that we're drug-oriented, really. The drug companies got us that way, and they'd like to keep us that way. I mean, that's a simple thing. They start you early with the oral habit. Little orange-flavored aspirin for children. 2 in the mouth, son. Something wrong with your head? 2 in the mouth. Remember that. Head, mouth. These are orange, there'll be other colors later on. Even named it after a saint to throw you off, you know. It's all right, son, 2 in the mouth. St. Joseph. Mom's got her fix. Coffee freaks running around. Alcohol. You know, that's the biggest, of course, and most abused, and incredible. 50% of all traffic deaths. No, yes, that's about 25,000, right. 50% of traffic deaths, 40% of all arrests, traceable. 50% of all first admissions to mental institutions, traceable to alcohol. And then, of course, there's diabetes, gout, high blood pressure, heart disease, insanity, divorce. When they talk about drugs, they don't talk about all of them. That's the problem. They don't mention coffee. The low end of the speed spectrum, I grant you. But there are coffee freaks, and they're walking around. Nobody's worried about it or anything. Mrs. Olson never tells you about that mild speed lift, you know? Because she's shooting freeze-dried Folgers, right? But you've seen the coffee freak in the office, haven't you? The guy who drops 8 or 9 cups every morning. Always in a good mood. Hi, how are you? Warm that up for you? Okay, yeah, hi, how are you? Hey, good to see you. Always in a nice mood, fine, until the coffee urn breaks, man. And he's the first guy. What do you mean broke, man? Why, plug it in. No, turn it around. Never mind, man. Put some water in. Holy shit, man. Turn it around. And then he goes out and scores because he's the one who's hooked. I know it's just a dopey example, but that's the beginning of it. Then you have housewives and the diet pills. Mom found out there's a lot more than dieting in those pills, man. Help you grind your teeth and feel great, too.
We all know it's called the bionic, the bomb, the puff, the black, the herb, the sensi, the chronic, the sweet Mary Jane, the shit, the bomb, the ganja, the reefer, the bud, the Buddha, the homegrown, the ill, the Maui Maui, the method, the pot, the shake, the stunt, the stress, the tide.
Hold on. As extensive as that list was, they were all terms for cannabis when used as a drug. But cannabis the plant can do much more than get people high. What do you know about hemp?
There are 3 strains of the plant. There's cannabis sativa, there's cannabis indica, and there's cannabis ruderalis. Those are the 3 strains of the plant. They're all cannabis. I mean, let's not make any bones about it. But I mean, the constituents of each plant is different.
Long ago, when these ancient Grecian temples were new, hemp was already old in the service of mankind. For thousands of years, even then, this plant had been grown for cordage and coarse cloth in China and elsewhere in the East.
Hemp can be grown almost anywhere, and literally has thousands of uses. In fact, the body of Henry Ford's Husket car built in 1941 was made primarily from hemp plastics. The plastics were lighter than steel, yet could withstand 10 times the impact without denting. What's more amazing is many of Ford's cars, like the Model T, were originally designed to run on ethanol fuel made from hemp grown on Henry Ford's own land. In 2001, a hemp-powered car was unveiled at the NORML conference, and it was carbon neutral.
The net carbon dioxide added to the atmosphere is balanced out by the life cycle of the plant.
This really isn't that impressive when you consider that there are racing cars that can be powered by the sun. Hemp fibres are the strongest soft fibres on the face of this planet. It's no surprise then that it's been used in Britain since 400 AD.
The old sailing ships in Nelson's day, I mean, all the ropes were made of hemp, all the sails were made of hemp.
The likelihood is your ancestors probably wore hemp. Clothes made from hemp are UV protective, antibacterial and very strong. For example, clothes made from hemp are 3 times stronger, 4 times warmer and up to 7 times more durable and flame retardant than cotton clothes. These old clothes were recycled into paper, and hemp paper is far superior than paper made from wood. Making paper from trees is kind of a joke. Trees are made from only 30% cellulose, which is what makes paper. The other 70% of the tree must be removed using toxic chemicals. Almost any other plant in nature with a strong stalk is better suited to making paper than trees, especially hemp, because it can be up to 85% cellulose. On top of this, hemp paper will last much longer and doesn't yellow over time. Just 1 acre of hemp can produce as much paper as 4 to 10 acres of trees over a 20-year cycle. This is because hemp stalks only take 4 months to mature, whereas trees can take up to 80 years. 93% of the world's paper comes from trees. And when you consider that deforestation is the biggest cause of climate change, more efficient alternatives like hemp would be ridiculous to overlook.
Stalks like these here on the left, they yield the most fiber and the best.
Oil was produced from these seeds and burnt in lamps. It may also have been used as a folk medicine or for food. Eating hemp seeds is one of the best things you can do for your body. Hemp seeds contain one of the highest sources of protein found in nature, and consuming hemp actually enlarges and clears out the arteries, which can help prevent heart attacks and strokes. That's great, but a food that's good for you, well, it's nothing new. I bet you didn't know that hemp, when used properly, could be one of the smartest building materials in the world.
So what we have here is the hemp shiv, or also called the hurd, which is the internal part of the stem of the plant. And that's mixed with a lime-based binder. And so with that lime-based binder and the hemp, we've got a negative carbon footprint. Now the difference between lime and concrete is that lime you don't have to heat up as much. Concrete you have to heat up to almost 3,000 degrees, which takes a lot of energy and does very poorly on the carbon footprint.
Well, hempcrete actually sequesters carbon. Let me tell you how it does that. First of all, any cellulose material, wood for example, or hemp, takes carbon in during its life cycle, and usually when it decays, it lets it back into the atmosphere. If you take that plant and then put it into a wall, for example in hempcrete, then that carbon is now sequestered in the wall and not becoming part of climate change. So the hempcrete in this building, this one building alone, will sequester 20,000 pounds of carbon. That's a pretty big accomplishment. I think this is the best wall system in the world. So I'm all about hemp. I think hemp's an important thing to push because it's food, fiber, building material. But really I'm choosing this material because it's the best in terms of building science. And why is that true? First of all, because this is what's often called a breathable wall system. And I don't mean breathable for air. We're actually building an airtight wall, but it's breathable for water. And why is that an advantage? Well, in a typical wall, you have a cavity that you seal tightly and then you fill with insulation. Well, water will get inside that cavity because water that's its job in the world. My body's 70% water. It can dissolve any material. Anyway, so what we want to do in a building is create a wall that welcomes water but doesn't rot when it lets the water in, and that's exactly what hempcrete does. When humidity changes in the air outside, the wall can take on that extra humidity and hold it until the humidity drops outside, and then it will let it back out. In the meantime, because the lime is wrapped around the cellulose won't rot.
The lime is trying to go back to being a rock. That means this wall is going to get harder and harder and harder. Over time, it's going to petrify. So these walls will last for thousands of years, not at 40 years like what we're used to building.
So hemp can be grown almost anywhere. It can be used to make clothes more durable than those made from cotton, strong plastics, paper superior to that made from trees, and hempcrete, an amazing new building material. The seeds can be used to make a carbon-neutral biodiesel, or simply eaten as foods. And these are just a few examples of what the cannabis plant can do.
Hemp is one of the oldest and most valuable crops known to man.
So why aren't we seeing more of this plant? There's no easy answers to this question, but we can still take a look.